Welcome back, Inktober Tanglers, or any tangler who wants to learn these tangles from day 13, 14, and 15. I can't believe we're at the halfway point of October, and I'm going to show you 13 right now, which is I Can This by Zentangle. And of course, it's called I Can This because it resembles an Icanthus leaf, but stylized and easy to draw. So here's my string that I'm going to ink out. And then we want to do our halo or aura. Not a halo. Halo is something in botanical illustration. Whoops, I shouldn't talk and draw at the same time. So for this particular tangle, I think I'm going to make it red-brown, reddish brown. So I'm getting out my 01 Micron pen in brown, out of the corner. And I'm going to stop. And then we make these little branches. And on the top of each one of these branches, we're going to do this little, very similar to the flame shape that we did in this tangle here, right? So we're going to just find that and now in Maria's step out, she does these little U shapes on each of these. But and then also in here to kind of guide where we're going to do our wiggly line next. But I kind of like to just go for it. It's very much like what I do for Samson. So let's see, let's go. We do want to get some wiggles going on and then go all the way down into the corner. All the way down. Maybe a little spiky thing here and there. Almost like a dandelion leaf. And then the same here. And then I just want to fill out my space. So I'm going to turn. I'll just add another one here. Now we want to do some polishing, such as weighting the line, especially like here on the undercuts. So just going to restate some of those lines to give them a lively look. And then also, as you can see, it's already coming to the foreground now. We're going to also weight these, the midrib, and where these little veins branch off. And then there's an option to create what Maria does is a fold. So it gives the illusion that this plant is folding over. Like that. So now we're going to just shade with our Indian red or your henna or your whatever you have along the midrib. And I like to come out towards the end because I feel that if you do that, you're creating this illusion that the leaf is undulating, and then underneath here you would definitely put shading because that would be providing a drop shadow. Then we will get our white, and we can start adding and actually blending down that Indian red with the white. Or if you'd rather, if you're starting to get used to using it, you can take your solvent blender just to pull that out and into the tooth of the paper. And then you can go on it with your white. So even that's turned up, it's like flipped over. I am going to make it a little bit darker, not too dark, because we do want to see a difference in the flip, and then just get really much darker underneath. And then for the background, I'm going to do another one of these textured line weight or line backgrounds. You can take your dark brown or your black, and let's do some line work here. So basically we're filling in the negative space with these lines instead of giving it a solid fill, which you could also do. The tighter your line work, the darker the background's going to be, but we're going to add some shading to that. And we're going to get your graphite, your pencil out, and just kind of shade under the leaves, the I canvas leaves. See how that makes that stand up off of the surface. Almost as if it's been carved. Get some really dark darks in these crevices. And then this is one of those areas that we're going to shade. Don't worry about going right over the colored pencil. It's in shadow, so you're not going to see it as brilliantly as the others. Okay, let's leave that for our I canvas. Always go back and do a little highlights here and there. Now we're going to move on to day 14. Day 14 is a lovely little tangle called Prima. Prima is by Kimberly Wood. So I really love this tangle, so I'm gonna give it some space here to really showcase. And that tangle goes like this. I'm going to choose my black pen. Well, first of all, I'm going to ink my Crazy Huggins. These are all given. Let's put it right in the center. Let it grow right up, maybe at a bit of an angle, sort of following that curve. And then we're going to make a large kind of oval. This reminds me very much of a cone flower, right? Or like an echinacea or sundry cone flowers. And normally she then does some stippling on the left. But with my botanical illustration background, I'm going to stipple on the right instead, because for me, the light source is coming this way. But you do however you want. And then we're going to make some little petals. And they were very, very much like phlox leaves. So I'm just going to... She does 2 on one side and 3 on another in the step out, but I think you can just be... I think you can just be flexible with that and do what you want. And then we're going to weight these ends. And then do a line, just like we do with our phlox. And I'm going to do this thing that I learned from Molly, actually, during the project pack with all of the botanicals. Oh, and very important, can't forget this, we have some little fescues coming up from the center, kind of wrapping themselves up and around. Isn't that pretty? I love that flower. Of course, it's a flower. So I'm going to turn my paper and just pretend one's growing up out of here. I'm going to have a little bit of overlap. And the only thing we're going to see is that fescue. And it's up to you if you want to add like that second one here. Get some crossover, but it's sort of interesting. And then I'm going to do, you can do teeny tiny tipples if you've got a large space like this, and then add some stipples. And then maybe I'll just do fescue coming this way. So there would be one coming down here in that case. Isn't that pretty? Now all we have to do is shade. For this one, I'd like to go with those gold tones like here so that we have some, we want to pick up some of the colors. I will be using my graphite just to shade first the petals to give them dimension. And you can add some shading on here, obviously. Those stipples are indicating shading. I'm going to go over that kind of grisaille with our local color, which is going to be the brown ochre. I'm going to lift a tiny bit. Oh, it's my kneaded eraser. I don't have it, so I'm just going to lift this way. So we're going to do these in the Indian red. Now, I've lost a little bit of line work, which is no problem. Just going to go right back over. And then for the background, We do have a little bit more shading to do up here because this is one of those areas on Huggins where there's that crossing over of the other Huggins. So we're going to really give both sides of this some shading. So it's almost got like a halo, right? Really get dark in those back corners. So I'm actually gonna use colored pencil for that. I'm gonna use my sepia to get really dark here. That I will blend a little bit. Seeing some toothiness. I was just blending only on the sepia colored pencil, not on the graphite really. And then the fun part is we're gonna do what we did here with these, kind of act like there's snow going on in the background. We're expecting snow, maybe not here, but in Steiermark, which is in the higher Alps, tonight, possibly. First frost. So I'm saying goodbye to my flowers every day that I water them, thanking them for being so beautiful all summer long. And I just brought a couple in. I'm going to try to save my daisy trees. Not trees, what are they called? Topiaries. So this is basically just stippling with the white, right? And there we have day 14. Lovely little prima. Now let's move on to our final day 15 with another really pretty tangle called Sakura from Midori Furuhashi. Sakura is very much like so many of the Zen tangle patterns from the headquarters that I'm thinking it's just pretty much like a variation of Cadent. And there are a few other tangle patterns that are similar. But before we begin, let's get our pen and ink out Crazy Huggins. I really think you need the space for this to show up. You don't want to truncate it. It's just so very beautiful. I think I'm going to go ahead, let me look at my colors for a minute. I think I'm going to go ahead and use my black again for this one. We're going to multicolors, but just for the main pattern. And it starts out with a circle. Let's center it because this is giving us enough space. And then we're going to dance around that circle. I'm going to do another oral line because that was kind of small. Could make that into a little gem. And then we're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I guess. 6 in an approximate circle of 6 circles dancing around a circle. So 1, let's put this one across, 2. We want to do 2 more here. Now we're going to do that stroke that we've learned when we learned Cadent. Cadent is one of those classic Zentangle patterns. It's an S shape, combining these 2 orbs, very similar to our Huggins, except for Huggins is just an arc, where this is a flat S. In fact, when I teach Cadent, I always teach Crazy Cadent, which is like this. When you close it off, but Midori has a different method going on for this tangle that's really pretty. Now, I definitely would suggest that you turn your paper while you make this so that you get that S shape in the right direction, because that can be tricky, especially if you're just learning this. And we're going to make some little orbs down here where the belly is. But we're gonna make it a little bit away from the lines. This was the mistake I did when I first did this tangle. I put the orb on the line. We don't want to put it on the line. We want to put it a little bit away from the line at that area where it seems like there's a little belly on your S shape. So we have something like that. Now we're going to connect. We're going to connect this larger orb to this smaller one, just with a nice arced line, kind of like we have been doing all along with our crazy Huggins. See what we're building? Isn't that pretty? All right, so now we're almost there. I actually really like it like this, but there's one more step in the step out, and that is to go from the inside of this orb down to the point of the other line. So let's do that 5 more times. So there's like this space in between each of these little tendrils. We're going to put yet another stroke in there. We're going to combine this. So it's looking like a fold up. Do you see? I'm going to take this little circle and we're going to do like our apple core shape. And it's really cool. It's like a fluted, curled up piece of material, actually. So I guess it's good that I left a lot of space there. That is cool. Very cool. So there's all kinds of things that you can do. I noticed on, I think it was Stephanie Jennifer's variation, she did this really cool treatment that I love. And what it is just like a little crescent moon on top with the V shape. And then I'm going to use my brown pen to do an aura of that. Isn't that neat? I love that. So I'm going to do all of the larger tendrils. And then what you do in here is up to you. I'm not sure. Let me look what I did back here, if anything. One thing I'm going to do is Beetlejuice around this rim. And then with my brown pen, oops, I forgot one. With my brown pen, I'm going to mimic this line here. And do that shading sort of with my line work. And I think I am going to make these black for sure. You can do whatever you want, and if I don't like it, I might just add a little white dot in there. And just to make this little starfish a little bit more prominent. I was afraid to go too far out. I didn't want to cut off the edges, but I do want to make it more like a centerpiece focal point. So I'm gonna do an aura line around all, and I think I'm gonna just go ahead and do that in the reddish brown. That's not necessarily part of this step out. I just am doing this for myself. We need to shade. So I am going to shade with my Indian red down here. And just to get that, this is only in those little, in those little reddish folds, for lack of a better word. I'm going to add a little bar of darkness to that with some sepia on top. And then I'll blend. Then I'm in here, I'm going to get my graphite. Blend out and then go up here with what's left on the tip of my tortillon and lift that up from the surface a bit. And then with my white colored pencil, give it some highlights. And I'm using my sepia. So now the challenge becomes, if we want to do another one, we're going to have some overlap. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to stop my video here and then I'll show you the final results. I'm going to try one more here. Let's do two. One here. I kind of like that one. That one's working for me. So instead of adding any more, I think I'm going to go ahead and try to calm this down with some line work in the back instead of filling it in full. This one's got kind of wonky. Oh well. Then with a really sharp pencil, I'm going to go back in and do some shading on that background. Kind of cool. It looks like they're almost like pinwheels in the wind. So if I were to do this over, I really like this tangle. I think I would have tried to make this one bigger to cover the space up more. I really like how this one turned out, but crossing the two of them over was like killing my brain. So I don't want you to have to work so hard. You might want to start off with a bigger tangle. So there are days 13, 14, and 15. Yay, we made it halfway. Let's hope I can keep going on this. I'm going to go back and fill in some of these and polish a few things up and clean a few things up. And I will see you next time for 3 more. Have fun. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.